The challenge with Section 232 tariffs. The Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum just became even more complicated and confusing. Importers and customs brokers are scrambling to comply with the newly enforced tariffs on derivative products, but there's no clear roadmap on how to do it correctly. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, is aware of the confusion and is working on guidance. But for now, businesses are left navigating uncertainty on their own. This isn't just another tariff adjustment. It's a fundamental shift that's disrupting supply chains, increasing costs, and creating a compliance nightmare for trade professionals. Unlike previous Section 232 measures, this expansion targets products that aren't purely steel or aluminum, but contain these metals in some form, raising major questions about how to assess and declare their value. If you're in the trade industry, you need to understand what's happening now, why it's causing so much confusion, and what you can do to stay compliant. In this video, we'll break down the problems importers are facing, explain what CBP is planning, and discuss the global fallout, including retaliation from major U.S. trading partners. Let's dive in. The confusion around steel and aluminum derivatives. When we talk about steel and aluminum tariffs, most people assume we're only referring to raw materials: solid steel beams, aluminum sheets, metal rods, and other primary materials. However, the latest expansion of Section 232 tariffs goes beyond just the base metals. It now targets derivative products, items that contain steel or aluminum components, but are not entirely made of these metals. Some examples of these derivative products include air conditioner coils, made of a mix of aluminum, copper, and other materials. Wire products may contain steel cores with protective coatings. Nails and fasteners, often steel-based, but sometimes plated or mixed with alloys. Bulldozer blades, typically steel-reinforced, but not 100% metal. This change has created a major compliance challenge for businesses that import these products. Importers and brokers now have to determine exactly how much steel or aluminum is in a product, which isn't always straightforward. This raises critical questions for businesses trying to stay compliant. How do you accurately determine the percentage of steel or aluminum in a product that contains other materials? What methodology should be used to calculate the metal content? And does CBP have a standardized formula? How should companies declare these components on import paperwork? And what happens if CBP disagrees with an importer's assessment? Could they face penalties or reclassification? The reality is that many importers and customs brokers are struggling to answer these questions. Since these tariffs went into effect just after midnight on March 12th, companies have been left scrambling for clarity. Without specific CBP guidance, there's a significant risk that companies will misclassify their imports, resulting in overpaying or underpaying tariffs, which could trigger audits or penalties. Shipment delays due to customs processing errors. Increased compliance costs as companies attempt to adjust their supply chain reporting. With all these uncertainties, businesses are stuck waiting for CBP to release more detailed instructions. Until then, many importers are operating in the dark, unsure of the right way to assess and declare these derivative products. CBP's efforts to provide guidance. CBP knows there's a problem and they're trying to address it. A spokesperson from U.S. Customs and Border Protection recently told International Trade Today that the agency is actively exploring options to clarify how businesses should declare the steel and aluminum content in derivative products. But here's the issue: this guidance doesn't exist yet. That means importers are caught in a gray area where they must comply with the tariffs, but have no clear method to calculate or declare the metal content properly. What exactly is CBP working on? According to reports, CBP is considering several approaches to establish a methodology for determining the steel and aluminum content in derivative products. This could include a standardized formula, a calculation method that businesses must follow to assess the percentage of steel or aluminum in a product, defined percentage thresholds, establishing cutoff levels that determine whether a product qualifies as a derivative under the tariff rules, new documentation requirements. Importers may be required to submit detailed breakdowns of metal content, supplier certifications, or material composition reports to verify compliance. For now, CBP has not committed to a timeline for releasing this guidance, leaving importers and brokers uncertain about how long they'll have to operate in the dark. Why does this matter? Without a clear methodology in place, businesses are facing real financial and operational risks. Misreporting metal content could mean overpaying or underpaying tariffs, which can trigger CBP audits and possible penalties. Incorrect classifications could cause shipment holds or rejections, delaying deliveries and increasing costs. Legal exposure. If an importer incorrectly declares a product, CBP could take enforcement actions, leading to additional fines or trade compliance violations. Right now, the trade community is waiting for CBP to take the next step. Businesses are eager for official written guidance that will remove ambiguity and allow them to adjust their compliance procedures accordingly. Until then, companies must navigate this uncertainty on their own, which makes it critical to stay informed and prepared. Because when CBP does release its methodology, it will likely require immediate action. What you can do for now. If you're currently dealing with this issue, you're not alone. Many importers and customs brokers are in the same position, unsure of how to handle declarations for steel and aluminum derivatives under the new Section 232 tariff expansion. While we wait for CBP's official guidance, there are several proactive steps you can take to minimize risk, avoid costly errors, and prepare for upcoming compliance requirements. Step 1. Document everything. One of the most effective ways to protect yourself is by keeping detailed records of the steel and aluminum content in the products you import. This includes invoices from suppliers that clearly state the material composition of each product. Material breakdown reports showing what percentage of steel or aluminum is present in a given item. Supplier certifications that verify the origin and classification of the metals used. Why is this important? If CBP challenges your tariff classification or valuation, having solid documentation can support your case and help prevent disputes. Step 2. Consult a licensed customs broker. If you're unsure how to correctly classify your imports under the new rules, it's best to seek professional guidance. Licensed customs brokers stay up to date with CBP regulations and can help you interpret tariff classifications based on the latest rulings. Determine the best way to declare derivative products to reduce compliance risks. Navigate potential CBP audits or disputes over metal content declarations. Step 3. Request a binding ruling. For importers dealing with products in a legal gray area, you don't have to guess. You can request a binding ruling from CBP. A binding ruling is a written decision from CBP that officially determines how your product should be classified before you import it. This can eliminate uncertainty about whether your product qualifies as a derivative under Section 232. Protect you from penalties by ensuring you're applying the correct tariff. Provide documentation that you can use in case of an audit or dispute. Step 4. Stay updated on CBP announcements. CBP is actively working on guidance, and when they release it, importers will likely need to adjust their compliance strategies immediately. To stay ahead of changes, sign up for CBP bulletins and trade alerts. Follow trade associations and industry news sources that track regulatory updates. Monitor CBP's official website and notices for updates on new methodologies or rule changes. Step 5. Engage with CBP and industry groups. One of the best ways to ensure the final CBP guidance makes sense is to get involved in the conversation. Customs brokers, importers, and industry groups can help influence CBP's approach, providing feedback on how the current confusion is affecting trade operations. Participating in industry discussions and CBP outreach programs. Submitting real-world examples of classification challenges to show CBP where clarification is needed. If enough trade professionals raise concerns, CBP may refine its approach to better reflect industry realities. Final thoughts: stay proactive, stay informed. While CBP finalizes its guidance, the best thing importers can do is take proactive steps to protect their businesses. By documenting everything, consulting experts, staying updated, and engaging with CBP, you can reduce risks and stay ahead of the evolving compliance landscape. Retaliation and global impact. While U.S. importers struggle with these new tariffs, trading partners are fighting back. The global response has been swift, with major economies retaliating against the U.S., escalating this into a full-blown trade dispute. The European Union has announced a $28 billion retaliation package. This targets key U.S. exports, including agricultural products, industrial machinery, and consumer goods. The goal is to pressure the U.S. by making American exports less competitive in European markets. Canada has taken a strong stance as well. In direct response to the U.S. tariffs, Canada has imposed a 25% duty on nearly $30 billion worth of U.S. goods. This affects automotive parts, raw materials, and key manufacturing components. Canadian officials argue that these tariffs disrupt long-established supply chains and unfairly penalize Canadian industries. Beyond retaliation, other countries are considering legal action. Several nations are preparing to challenge the tariffs at the World Trade Organization, claiming they violate international trade agreements. If successful, these challenges could force the U.S. to revise or even remove some of these tariffs in the future. This is no longer just a domestic trade issue. It has become a global economic conflict with far-reaching consequences. Businesses are caught in the middle, adjusting to rising costs, disrupted supply chains, and increased uncertainty. The trade community must stay alert. More retaliatory measures could follow, and legal battles may shape how these tariffs are enforced in the long term. The only certainty is that the situation is still unfolding, and businesses need to prepare for more changes ahead. What's next? The trade community urgently needs answers. The lack of clear guidance on Section 232 tariffs for derivative products has left importers, brokers, and businesses struggling to comply. Right now, everything depends on CBP's next move. When CBP releases its official guidance, businesses will need to act fast to ensure they are correctly classifying and declaring their goods. The methodology they introduce could impact how tariffs are applied, how products are valued, and what documentation is required. Until then, businesses must stay proactive. Keeping records, consulting trade professionals, and staying informed will help avoid compliance mistakes, penalties, and shipment delays. This issue is still evolving, and the global trade landscape is shifting every day. More changes could come, including retaliation from other countries, legal disputes, or even policy adjustments from the U.S. government. That is why it is critical to stay informed. Subscribe to our channel to stay ahead of these trade developments. If this video helped you understand the issue, hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. How do you think CBP will handle this? Let's discuss. Sources are listed below for further reference.